Our runaway housing market is showing little sign of slowing down. In Western Australia, house prices spiked 16% in the past year, the fastest rise in more than 25 years. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg indicating a home loan crackdown is being strongly considered to cool an overheating market. Let's bring in our finance expert for some analysis. Michelle Maynard, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Man.
There's long been talk on how to slow down the bullet train that is Australia's real estate market. Talk us through what a home loan crackdown would look like.
So we know that the housing market is going great guns at the moment for a couple of reasons. Supply and demand, basically there isn't enough stock for all the people that want it. But another reason is interest rates are so low. And what that does, it means that there are more people who can borrow more because of the interest rates being that low. So when they look at a home loan crackdown, what they're looking at doing is pulling the levers with amounts that banks can lend. Now in the past year, the amount of loans that have more than 6 times a couple's income has risen from 18% of new loans up to 22% of new loans. So one of the things they're looking at doing is restricting how much banks are able to lend people. They're hoping if they do that, it's going to mean that there's going to take some heat out of the market and hopefully affect house prices.
How would that happen there? How could this impact house prices?
Well, if we take a couple that's earned, say, $100,000 combined, if they're able to borrow more than 6 times their income, they can look at house prices in the $600,000 range. If banks were restricted on how much they could lend and say they were only allowed to lend 5 times a couple's combined income, that couple would only be able to look for houses in the $500,000 price range. So by doing that, it's going to limit the amount of people that are out there looking for houses, especially at that higher end of the market. So if banks are restricted with how much they can lend, it's going to mean that people are going to be able to look for houses at the lower end of the market, but not necessarily the higher, and that's going to slow down house price growth.
Has this been done before, Michelle? And if it has, what was the outcome then?
It has. In 2014 and 2017, banks were restricted with how much they could lend to investors because the worry back then was investors were making up too much of a large part of the market and pricing out first home buyers and owner occupiers. So back in 2014 and 2017, banks were restricted with how much new lending they could give to investors. They were also restricted with how much of the lending could be interest-only loans, which are targeted mainly at those entering the market as an investor. So by doing that, it actually did affect house prices. Sydney dropped on average 15% and Melbourne dropped average 14% because it took the heat out of the market. Investors weren't able to borrow as much. It wasn't as appealing to them anymore. And so therefore they retreated, giving owner occupiers and first home buyers more of a share of the market. So it has been done before and it's looking like they will be doing something else again to try and take the heat out of the market because we know house prices are going up at a rapid rate and it really is concerning. The thing that they are most concerned about is not about house prices getting too expensive, but about what happens if there's a shake to the economy. We know people who are laden with debt that they really can't afford will stop spending if they're concerned about being able to make their mortgage repayments. So Josh Frydenberg said what they're trying to do is make sure the economy is stable by making sure people only have debt that they can afford. So if things do get a little bit tough...
We're going to have to leave it there, Michelle.
Correct.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Man.